A lot of people, leave it just on paper and don't do anything. So what made you decide to really start working on your project?
Mark and I went to kind of like an entrepreneurship startup conference. After that event is when Mark and I came back together and realized like, hey, we have this idea. We got like validation in the field from other people and other investors. I think this is what we need to do on the next step. But after the product discovery phase is over, and we're like, wow, like we walked away with so much information. Now we have like a clear vision, a clear idea, like what our next action steps are going to be. Everything now moving forward after the product discovery is just a lot more clear, defined.
We don't want to create something that we think that the customers want without actually getting the actual feedback from them. Because there's a difference between me and him saying like, okay, we think that's what they want versus this is what they actually want.
Mark, Isaac, how's it going, guys? Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me. How's it going, Seven?
Good, very good. You guys are joining us from Boston?
That is correct. Yeah, we are in a little south of Boston, so Norwood, Massachusetts. But yeah, we call it Boston. Same thing.
Yeah, wider area. It's easier just to call it Boston. Okay, so today we're going to talk about your business idea, which is Bridge Connection. Bridge Connection is a crypto and stock exchange where you can swap crypto for stocks and vice versa. But before we dig in deeper, how did you guys become? What's your background? How did you guys become interested in crypto and stocks? We can start with you, DeMark.
So my background is I pretty much started with stock first originally in maybe 2013. Me and my brother, we talked about investing and securing like financial wealth and stuff like that. So I remember I started to kind of buy some little um, stock, maybe like Snapchat or something like that. And I was kind of like patiently watching it for a few months. And I'm like, man, this is not going to work. So I left it there. And within like maybe the next year, I think it went up a couple $100. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty interesting. So I figured it out and I'm like, let me just continue with this stock investment. So I did that. I got into crypto maybe after the 2016 bubble. What happened is that during the 2020 pandemic, me and my brother, we were talking about investing into Tesla. So I had bought Tesla maybe like in February, and it started to gain some traction, right? And at that time, I didn't really care too much about crypto, but the money that I have made, I just wanted to kind of like take it out and have it sitting down in the brokerage just for in case of any emergency, right? During December, I remember I bought some Dogecoin because a few people have talked about it, and it was like maybe point 0.003 cent from, and I bought maybe a few $100 worth of it. And I believe maybe by like March, it started to rally, and I was like, oh wow. So I made a few $1,000s, and I remember I still had the money that I have made from Tesla to kind of put into the cryptocurrency, but I remember the process was taking way too long, right? I had to sell it off, then transfer it into my bank account, and then wait maybe 4 business days. And by the time I was able to get my Dogecoin, it was a lot less than I previously expected. So I searched around and I'm like, there's got to be a way for me to to make that transaction easy. So I talked to a few professors and they couldn't find the answers as well. So I dig and dig and dig and could not find the answer. So I'm like, I might as well try to tackle this problem myself. And I remember talking to a few classmates about it, and nobody was really that interested. Everybody was kind of skeptical about crypto. So in accounting class, this is where I met Isaac, and we kind of had the same similarity. I was more like a long-term investor, and he was more of a day trader. And we talked about pretty much the same kind of issues that we were both having, and we decided to tackle it along that way. So that was my side of the story. So now Isaac could tell you his side of the story before I came in the picture.
Yeah, so I was first into the stocks probably around 2016, just as like another form of income. I really didn't know much about stock trading or investing. I just kind of wanted to make some more passive income. So I started to do some research and studying about like how to stock trading and things like that. So kind of like similar to Dumark, I just bought a couple of like common shares just to kind of get my feet wet and stuff like that. And I did that for about 2 years or so. Just whenever I got paid, I'd put like a little bit of money into the markets and just to kind of see what it does when it what it does and things of that nature. And right before the pandemic is when I think the market was doing really well, and I started seeing like my couple of $100 also increase. So I'm like, oh wow, this is actually, kind of interesting. And so I started to invest more money. And then right when the pandemic came, that's when like uh, markets started, going crazy. Also, around that time, I think it was like 2018 or something like that, is when Bitcoin was like huge, huge hype. And I didn't know nothing about, I heard about Bitcoin, but I didn't know much about it. So that's when I started like doing more research around Bitcoin, and that's when I started getting into cryptocurrency around late of 2018. But I didn't invest in anything. I was just I was skeptical too, because I'm like, I don't know, this could be like a scam and a bunch of scam stories around cryptocurrency. So I kind of just stayed away from it and watched it a little bit. But that's when I was a little more heavy into the stock market. And then when the pandemic came, I got laid off from my job, and I was at home and stuff. And I'm like, wow, what do I do? How do I make money? And a lot of people also were, same scenario as me. And then I got into a trading community on a social platform, Reddit and Twitter and stuff. So I was just like following other people, and like a lot of stock gurus came out of nowhere and like were trying to teach you how to trade and stuff. So I took a trading course, and I studied how to like day trade. So over the course of the pandemic, um, I picked up day trading, and I kind of just ran with it because I found it very interesting. I have a finance background. Um, I went to school for finance and stuff like that. So during the pandemic, I did a lot of studying on day trading. I did a lot of day trading, but then also too, I wanted to hedge my day trading. So I invested in cryptocurrency at the same time. But being, a young adult, I didn't have a lot of money to just throw everywhere like these big guys. So whenever I made a gain off of a stock or something, I wanted to, and I seen a position in cryptocurrency, I would try to, seal that gain and try to make another investment in the crypto. But again, the same scenario that Dumark had, it took a long time. And when I wanted to get into a position, the price wasn't what it was. It would either be too expensive for me to buy, or it'd be like it would sell off and it'd be super dirt cheap. And I'm just like, I don't know, maybe it may not rally again. So um, that when that happened, I'm just like, wow, okay, maybe this is how it is. So when me and Dumark met in accounting class, he came up to me with the idea. Before we even talked about bridge connections, we became friends and stuff, and we both talked about how we trade and invest in stocks and stuff. And then we talked about the problems we had, and we were like, wait a minute, you have that problem too? And so we realized we both had that problem. And coincidentally, a couple of my other friends that were in the trading community had the same issue, but we didn't know it was an issue at the time. It was just like, okay, this is just how it is. But when me and Dumark found out that we had the same issue and a couple of my friends had the same issue, we sat down and we're like, yo, I think we have a problem here and we can probably try to solve it, and that's how Bridge Connections came alive. Yeah. And
Right.
so,
It seems that both of you got started in crypto and stocks pretty early because everybody, let's say, found out about Bitcoin and stocks in the 2021 bull run. When it was both the all-time high for the S&P 500, both for Bitcoin. But in 2017, yes, Bitcoin did get to an all-time high, but everybody was still skeptic when it did crash. So it's something you have to be, as you Isaac said, it might be a scam, which in 2017 everybody was saying yes, Bitcoin is a scam. It's that rally now, but it's gonna crash. And what happened? What 6 months ago, the spot Bitcoin ETF got approved. So things are changing. All right, so you got the idea to start everything, but what actually made you decide, all right, this is the thing, right? Let's start. What was the turning point, for you to actually start working on the idea? Because a lot of people, leave it just on paper and don't do anything. So what made you decide to really start working on your project?
Um, I think what Dumark and I decided to really try to execute and work this idea was when first we were like, okay, let's try to see if any other company or anything else is doing this, and if they are, how are they doing it, and maybe is it even worth us trying to build this thing? So we did a lot of extensive research, like months and months. And we didn't find anything, nothing at all. And I figured big brokers and exchanges probably would have something similar to this, but surprisingly, nothing. And so I think, me and Dumark sat down and we talked about it, and we were like, you know what, we probably have a shot at this if we really try and believe this idea. So that's when we started. That's when we first were like, okay, let's really take this serious. And then Dumark and I went to other like investment trading shows and talked to other people about this pain point that we had, and they were like, wow, that's really a good idea. If there was a product out there, we would, traders were like, we would use it, we would utilize it, and things of that nature. So I think after we got that type of feedback from similar people in our position is when we decided that we were gonna go full on with this.
All right. So how did you start actually? How did you raise money to start? We're gonna mention product discovery later, but we're gonna dig a bit deeper. But how did you get the money to start? Because that's one of the most difficult steps, for a startup. Just the first step is just uh, being sure that your idea is worth researching, and the next one is getting the money, the necessary funds to actually do that, and that's no easy task. So how did you guys do it?
So after the confirmation that we've got from a lot of the folks that we visited at the investor shows, we decided to well, we figured out how we're going to raise the money, right? So me and Isaac, we talked about it, and we kind of came up with the solution that we should bootstrap it in the beginning, because it was pretty much, I mean, it was a lot of money, but I think we was able to kind of manage to pay for the product from the product discovery ourselves, and then along the way as we move on, then we could start raising money from investors. But we did talk to a few family members to kind of see what their headspace was at, to kind of get the feel of how to approach investors. And we did talk to a few investors too, and they kind of gave us a lot of information and feedback. And we decided to just let's just bootstrap it at first, to kind of show the investors that we are really committed to this project. So we believe by bootstrapping it in the beginning process, that it will show a level of commitment to the investors that we are really taking this project serious. So to answer the question, the first raise of money was between Isaac and I, and it wasn't easy, but we managed to figure out how to do it, and we paid it off, and it was a great accomplishment. I can tell you that much. We love the all the work and effort that Decoder had put in with us, the time and stuff like that. So no regrets as far as um, bootstrap.
Yeah. So also, when Dumark and I decided that we were gonna bootstrap this thing first, we reached out to friends and family and stuff, and like, how when you ask like friends and family, like, hey, we have this great idea, we want, we're trying to get it out there on the market. Can you guys help us out? And just getting, that rejection from friends and family. it was kind of really motivated Dumark and I to like, come back together and be like, you know what, we're gonna try to do this ourselves. We'll bootstrap this as far as we can. And like Dumark mentioned also that it'll give other investors and other people that see us that we are serious because we're putting up our own money, and we believe in this. So taking a risk with our own money then gives us the investors and other people that like, okay, these guys are really serious about their project.
Yeah, certainly. That's quite a brave approach, and but it certainly proves that you are ready, to commit to your idea, and everything else. Um, Product discovery is quite often overlooked, because everybody thinks, yes, I have this great idea, and it doesn't have any problems. It should sell good and everything else. But that's not really true, because sometimes through product discovery, you can find out things that you didn't know, and that can help let's say, tweak your idea, or just make some minor changes. Um, and also, when finish your product discovery, if you're looking for investors, you have something to show. Some concrete info that's you can show to investors. Okay, we found this out and this out, and we have everything necessary to get to the next step. So how did the long did the product discovery last? Okay, we helped you with the product discovery. So how did how did everything how did product discovery meet your expectations in terms of validating the idea? And what was the most important discovery about your idea?
Before I answer that, I just want to touch up on how we even got to product discovery because when Dumark and I decided that we're gonna take this idea full fledged, we didn't even know what product discovery was to begin with. So Dumark and I went to kind of like an entrepreneurship uh, startup conference, and it was a bunch of panel speakers, and they were talking about product discovery, product development, and things of that nature. And that's like the first time we actually heard what product discovery was. And I think after that event is when Dumark and I came back together and realized like, hey, we have this idea. We got like validation in the field from other people and other investors. I think this is what we need to do on the next step to get our idea like officially validated before we spend any amounts of money or even go to investors and talk to them and try to like pitch our idea. And so that's when we decided that we wanted to, do the product discovery phase. And that's how we came, we were like, okay, now we know what product discovery was. But we found, we did a bunch of research and we compared other software development companies. I think there was like the top three. There was two other ones in Decode, and we met with Mariana in the Zoom call, and we just felt, the quality that Decode was going to provide outbeat the other companies that we met with. So that's when we decided that we were going to go with Decode, and yeah, and now we're here. So I've found out I think product discovery lasted about, was it 8 weeks to Mark, would you say? Yeah, like eight to 10 weeks. We met every day. We met once a week with I guess there was like a senior developer, and then there was a developer under them, and then there was a project manager. And I would definitely say that the product discovery phase really opened up our ideas of what we're trying to accomplish here, not just within the financial markets, but like on the technical aspect, because we didn't realize how difficult that the technical background was going to be. Because we think like, okay, we just want to buy a stock and then convert it and trade it into crypto. But with the product discovery, it definitely showed us how difficult it can be just building a platform out like that. And another big concern too that we discovered was the regulation. Just like a lot of, there's going to be a lot of hands working in this thing. So regulation was going to be a huge concern for us as well.
For me, one of the big things that I've learned from the product discovery was the actual going out to find out the market. So the people who are actually going to use the app. In our case, we thought that was it was only going to be like maybe the younger kids and maybe 30-year-old or stuff like that, professionals. But with the product discovery, it actually taught us about like the different type of people that will be able to enable to use the app to make get their own success story. So we the process wasn't that long, but throughout it, for me, the main concern I learned was from the market, how the market was gonna adapt to the product, the project, and then regulation was actually a big concern. But we actually learned that it's not actually the project that should be the problem, but getting across regulation is going to be kind of like the biggest hurdle. So that's the main thing that we've learned from this product discovery is not necessarily the project itself, but regulational aspect to overcome.
Also, I would mention that the product discovery did meet our expectations because um, before going into product discovery, we didn't know much what to expect, just like being founders and kind of just having this fresh idea. But after the product discovery phase was over, I remember Dilmark and I met a couple times after that, and we are like, wow, like we walked away with so much information. Now we have like a clear vision, a clear idea, like what our next action steps are going to be. Everything now moving forward after the product discovery is just a lot more clear, defined. We know what actions we got to take to like keep progressing. So I definitely recommend any startups or any people with ideas to like definitely do this type of process because it clears the whole picture for you instead of having like a cloudy mirror, because before we were kind of just like, all right, let's do this task, and then we find ourselves like circling back always, So now with product discovery, it's like straight, light at the end of the tunnel.
Also, one more thing, Decode actually helped us put our ideas into actual visual aspect of it because in the beginning we had this great idea and we had a lot of ways to think that how the app was going to work, but with Decode after the product discovery we was actually able to see the actual idea in our face and play around with it. So I think it was actually a great experience for founders who would like to see their idea come to life to contact Decode.
Right. I mean, it's really difficult to visualize something like that. If you when you have it on paper, it's really abstract. And then when you have, let's say, a wireframe prototype or something like that, you can, just get a better feeling, what's it's going to look like. And again, as I mentioned, you can show some of that to a potential investor. One of the things that you mentioned is that it's the technical part is really complicated, and it is. You might think, well, I don't know, I'm just swapping some Bitcoin for Tesla, but actually, no, what's happening in the background is really complicated because you need to fetch all the data, in real time data, and let's say you have, I don't know, 20,000 users at once, swapping crypto for stocks and vice versa. That has to, function seamlessly, and that's, not easy to achieve. So, um, and we take those things for granted, when you use it, apps. I don't know if you realize that after product discovery, every app that you use, let's say Instagram or something like that, it's so smooth, but in the background, a lot of things are happening.
And being a non-technical person, Dumark probably he has I can vouch he has more technical experience than I do. So like when we went into product discovery and just like learning a lot of the back end and how like the back end functions, definitely gave me a perspective of how big this thing, how big this thing is, and just with like general apps in period, it's just like okay, things are seamlessly on the front end, but like in the back end, it's like there's like so much wheels and gears turning together. So it really gave me insight on how things actually work when we don't see them in front of us.
All right. If you guys have, if you were to start all over again with the product discovery, would you have a different approach from what you learned now? Would you, do something differently?
I would say no, we wouldn't change it because not only did you guys exceeded our expectation, but I think the drive that we kind of had between us, the fact that we had to bootstrap it, kind of give us a lot more motivation to kind of make sure that this project gets to the ending result, right? So to me, I would not change the outcome or the start of it because we learned so much. And I think if we maybe took a different approach, we probably wouldn't have the same insight that we have learned from Decode. So we kind of appreciate a lot of stuff that they have done in as far as the product discovery.
Yeah, that's a good point. You make, Mark. I agree. I don't think I would have changed our approach, um, at all because, like you said, we've learned so much just from the start to the end, and I'm sure we're going to learn more as we continue to build out this product. Um, and I didn't know as like an entrepreneur that there's so much learning as you go through the process. I figured like, okay, we have an idea, it's on paper, now let's find people to build it out. But no, there's just like so much you learn. There's so much me and him learn. Even as business partners, just through product discovery, working together, we learned about each other and we learned about just being entrepreneurs. So I don't think I would have changed anything neither.
And one more thing, yeah, I wouldn't change anything just because, like he said earlier, that I have a little bit of experience in the technical aspect of it. But when we did Decode, I found that I know nothing about the technical aspect of when it comes to building something like this. So I've learned a lot. So the back end stuff was way beyond the level of what I know. So I think that it was a great experience to kind of work with Decode, and we are definitely looking to continue this relationship with each other. So thanks a lot.
Uh, Now that Isaac mentioned that you and the Mark learned a lot from each other. Quite often, it's difficult for co-founders to, let's say, agree on some things. Did you have some disagreements regarding some of the aspects of your product?
Yeah, whenever we came out with any type of issues between the two of us, we'll always make sure we talk it out and kind of like figure out what's the right solution, right? We sometimes will take days to kind of marinate on the problem, and then we'll sit down and we kind of discuss it amongst each other, and then we figure out the similarities and the differences and what will actually benefit the company. So in the future, of course, we're gonna have um, problems kind of like coming together. But as far as as long as we're able to communicate, which I think that should be the biggest thing in business between two partners is to be able to communicate with each other in order to thrive. So I think we kind of did a great job in that aspect, especially when it came to figuring out who we're going to work with because there was three of them, and I think I was aiming for the second one, but then Isaac was like so adamant with Decode, and we said, okay, let's look at the pros and cons. And once we figured out that Decode had the more pros, we decided to come together and just work with Decode. So yeah, as long as we're able to balance each other out and communicate, I think we'll be good in the long run.
Yeah, I think also that's one thing me and Dumark have is communication. Like we communicate effectively about like everything. Even we're really good friends outside of business, so I think just having that communication aspect on the forefront of building this project out, it's really really rare that we ever come to um, like bump heads. Even if we don't disagree on something, like you said, we always have like a strategic plan on to like figure out what the problem is, voice both of our opinions, and then just work from there. So, just to give advice to any other investor or non-investor, entrepreneur, or co-founders or startups, just to have like effective communication and not to be afraid to communicate neither. If you're feeling some type of way, voice, definitely voice your opinion, because there was times where I felt like I, I don't like this, or maybe this doesn't work, and you know I'm just not being afraid to. I was afraid at first. I'm like, maybe should I say this or should I not say this? But just kind of like opening up and just being like, hey, look, I don't, this is my opinion, and just it being received, and it's like, okay, cool, I understand. Let's try to work it out, and yeah. So I definitely think effective communication is goes a long way for sure.
And also confidence too. We have to have confidence with each other to kind of confide with certain um, conversation. So as long as we're able to give each other that confinement or confidence, I think partnership would work, because like you said, he was a little bit nervous about saying certain things, and I had to give him the confidence, like, it's okay, just say whatever you want to say, and vice versa too. So as long as we have confidence with each other to express ourselves, I think that was the key.
Right, because sometimes co-founders can be hot-headed and just fight over some really simple things, and that's where things fall apart. Just be transparent and just be open with everything, because if you're not, things are not gonna go uh, towards a good way. So now that you finished with product discovery, your next step is finding an investor, which it takes a little bit more money, for just starting everything in product discovery. You managed to bootstrap, but this is something on a little bit of a higher level, where you need to, start just developing things, organizing everything, and not just in terms of, let's say, I need to find a company that's gonna do all the development and everything else, but also just the business part, operations, marketing, and so on. So, um, are you right now in the process of finding an investor, and what are the challenges?
Yeah, so we are in the process of finding an investor. I think we're at the pre-seed stage, where after we've done the product discovery, we have a prototype, we have wireframes, um, we have a business plan, we have a deck. So now all our documents are in line. Everything looks, professionally put together. So now when we go to investors, and we, because product development isn't a cheap thing. We realize how how expensive it can be to like hire good people to build out a good quality project. Um, Also, there can be an argument where we can have like a technical co-founder that can build it out, but just to like how complex this is, we feel, Dumark and I feel that we would feel more comfortable having some, high end professionals build out a quality product, and later down the line we can hire some technical people. But we are at the pre-seed stage where we're trying to raise, anywhere to like $1 million to $2 million to get a good, valuable, it's called MVP, a minimal viable product, so we can do some testing, put it in the market, do some testing, get some feedback from it, and just pretty much go from there. So and it's going to be a hard process. We're looking at venture capital firms. We have a list of angel investors we can reach out to, and we also do a lot of networking. We go to like investor networking shows where we can just talk to people and try to get some type of funding there. Yeah.
Do you guys have? Did you find a business advisor or anybody who's really close to you that can advise you on some things, because they're experienced and they've been through some things, or are you going through everything by yourself?
No, we have a few business advisors, especially professors from school who already created businesses themselves. They kind of give us a lot of insight on the route we should take. Also, too, like when we go to these seminars and conventions, we actually meet a lot of people who actually done the same type of project. Well, not the same project, but like they're in the startup world, and we kind of have that confinement between each other to kind of learn from one another. So we're not doing it all by yourself. We're actually learning from others as well, especially other founders.
All right. So what's next? Do you have any milestones? Do you have? I know you're trying to find funding now, but do you have, let's say, a plan that if you find funding, how are things gonna go? How are you gonna organize marketing, operations, finances, and many other things? I know there's a lot of things to think about, but did you make a concrete plan or something like that?
Yes, we made some plans already, especially when it comes to marketing. We have an idea of how we're planning on getting the actual project out to the market. Um, the finance, we've definitely worked on that too. Since Isaac and I are both finance major, we have a pretty clear picture of how we think the finance should go. But we spend a lot of time as well on the actual marketing aspect of it because we kind of figure out we have to get it to the public. So we spend a lot of time just working on the actual marketing.
I think another huge milestone that we have, other than marketing, is like I mentioned, the MVP. Because with the MVP and the marketing together, and we have it out in the public, we're going to be able to generate data from that. And so, with the data that we get and the feedback that we get from that from the users, um, is highly important, and that's pretty much the basis of how we're going to be able to build this product out. Because we don't want to just build a product and us think that it's perfect, but then once it hits the market, no one wants to use it because the users are like, we don't like this feature, we don't like that, and so I think that's another huge milestone that we have.
Right. I
Yeah,
mean, having an MVP is really important because it lets you iterate. It lets you see what, let's say mistakes you made or something like that. And it lets you see what the user actually wants, which ultimately helps, to have a better product on the market.
yes, I believe that the MVP is very essential just for the fact that Isaac had said earlier that we don't want to create something that we think that the customers want without actually getting the actual feedback from them. Because there's a difference between me and him saying like, okay, we think that's what they want, versus this is what they actually want. So the MVP is actually gonna um, get that collection data from the actual public who are gonna play around with the app, find out what they like, what they don't like, what features they like, what we should change, what we shouldn't keep on the app, and then that data will kind of essentially make it give us the confirmation like, okay, this is exactly what they want, compared to me and him just thinking about other people. Like we can't um, tell you what you think you should want, So I think it's only obvious for us to kind of get it out to the first adopters to kind of give us an idea of what the main um, customers actually really want. So that's why we think the MVP is essential to this project succeeding by actually getting that feedback from the customers.
Right. So it's certainly something that's going to help you. So you have to get an MVP out as soon as possible because then you can go, iterate and just get everything going. All right. Just to wrap it up, guys, what would be your closing thoughts in terms of, let's say, I have an idea for a startup. I'm a young entrepreneur. What advice would you give me? What should I look out for before I start everything? With my idea.
I would definitely say validate your idea first. You have this great idea and you want to put it out in the market. But before you go and start building things and getting teams together, you should definitely validate your idea um, before you go out, because with your idea validated that way, that, okay, this thing is actually possible that I can build and there could be some success to it, instead of you just putting a bunch of money into something and then at the end of the line, no one wants to use it. You have no users, you're not generating any revenue. It'll just be a huge waste of time. So definitely validating your idea first with a product discovery, I I recommend to any startup, and also reading the book The Lean Startup by Les Rees, if I pronounce his,
Yep.
because me and Dumark read that book, and we've learned so much from just you know from where we first started with the idea to where we're at now. It's a very, very impactful book. So
See, my advice will be for founders to take a leap and not be afraid to fail, right? I think a lot of the problems that, well, for me personally, I didn't think that my idea was that great until I started, meeting other traders that had similar issues, and then the next step for me was like, okay, I have this great idea. What do I do now? Um, I would tell founders to not be afraid to tackle the issues, right? If you don't find a solution, don't be afraid to be the one to kind of solve the problem for others, because more likely you're not going to be the only person with that problem. And I think if we didn't go on this journey together, me and Isaac, I think that the idea we had would have just still been back there instead of us actually seeing the vision and then just going straight forward. So I would say for beginner founders, even if you have no technical experience, that shouldn't be the reason for you not to go out and create something, because there's other avenues that you could find yourself that will make you important, just as valuable to whatever you're trying to create. So the biggest thing will be not to be afraid and just go for it. If you have an idea, go for it. Whether you succeed or you fail, if you fail, you will learn from it, and just continue going. That'll be my advice for new founders.
Right. So don't be afraid, because if you don't do anything, you're not gonna get anywhere. And that's you're gonna wonder for the rest of your life. What if I
Absolutely.
did that?
Yes.
What would
Yes.
have happened? So definitely it might be some things might be scary, but you should definitely take a leap of faith or something like that, and just try to do as best you can.
Exactly. And also I would say don't be afraid of being uncomfortable. I'm not much of a social guy, so this interview is not really my type of thing to do. I'm more of a background type of guy, but between Isaac and I was giving each other the confidence that we both have to be in the spot to kind of show people that there's two different type of ideas come together, and just show the collaboration within us to inspire others to go for it. So I think we're doing an okay job. I think I'm doing okay for being an antisocial type of guy. So yeah, just don't be afraid.
Yeah, get out of your comfort zone, because that's where things actually happen.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Okay. Guys, thank you for being our guests on our show. And I hope you get that money. I hope you start developing everything. And I hope you make a lot of money.
Thank you for having us on this podcast. It's an honor and a great experience.
yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to interview us, and just hearing me and Dumark's thoughts and our journey.
All right, guys. Thanks. Bye.